Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another episode of Inside the Firm. I'm Al, carrying the show, Gore. Yeah. I'm here with Lance, crushing it, Cayko. Before we get into anything, I want you to go check out buildabetterco.com. Go ahead and watch the 5 steps to increasing your profit, and then reach out to me if you want to talk about crushing it.
Yes.
Like Lance Cayko.
Yep.
In your business,
daily,
in your endeavors, in your life.
Hourly, minute by the minute.
Let's go.
Let's go, boys. Let's go. You know what else I want you to check out? You need to go check out Duratherm. Duratherm defines the category of all wood, completely custom hardwood windows and doors that deliver on your architect vision, and everyone knows it. That's why they refuse to rest on their laurels. And while Duratherm brand is built upon their expertise in windows, they are proud to announce the introduction of a clad exterior feature for our windows. Learn more at durathermwindow.com. Last, but certainly not least, head on over to arcat.com because accurate data is crucial, especially in today's business environment. Outdated and inaccurate data leads to turnarounds, delays, and rising costs. With supply chain and staffing issues, these costs and delays can multiply. That's why a resource like arcat.com is so important. Arcat works with manufacturers to keep their data up to date, accurate, and offers it to you easily and accessible and free. Use Arcat's powerful search engine to find out what you need and download it right there on their site without needing to pay anything or even register. That's right, no data mining. That's my favorite part. So try arcat.com today. That's ARCAT.com. Al, do you know the more you know, the harder, the more you don't know? So why do you think that is?
I feel like this summer we've ran into some tricky situations.
Some known unknowns, if you will.
Yeah. And we've been more experienced, more polished staff, a more systematic staff, better resources, better systems,
feedback loops.
So like, why this summer has it felt like just issue after issue has been coming at us when we
surprise issue.
Yeah,
surprise issue. Things we just were not anticipating seeing, and I think there's got to be a correlation. So I think the moral of the story for this, just to give you guys a preview of this segment, is, let's say you're year 1 of starting your business, right? And you don't have a huge amount of experience in a certain sector. Let's say you're gonna do a bunch of new cannabis shops or something. Like you're in a state like I don't know, Maine or some other place, like North Dakota, and they're like, we're gonna legalize marijuana in the same way Colorado did. And now there's a bunch of people that want to start growing it and selling it and all that kind of stuff. And you're an architect who's like, you know what? It's work. I'm interested in it. Or you're a builder or whatever, and I want to try it. You are going to. It's okay. You're going to confront a bunch of items that you don't know exist, right? And that's part of the journey. And then as you increase, like let's say every single year leading up to let's fast forward to 10, you've been in business for 10 years, and every year you add a new typology. Every single time you're adding that new typology to the equation, and the more risk you're taking and more responsibility you're taking on, the more reward, right, with all of that, it actually doesn't get any easier, because you're exposing yourself in such a way that you're uncovering things that you didn't know. And that's why it's called architectural practice, right? It's like you're practicing.
But it also does, let's say, what was the first typology you mentioned that you got into?
Weed. Just if you're doing you're doing a weed shop.
Let's say you were doing a weed shop and you've been doing it for 5 years. And like, the first couple years were hard, then you coast. And then if it gets harder again, why would it get harder again? And part of what you said in the beginning, the more you know you don't know, is there might have been issues like you might now be friends with the contractors of these weed shops.
Oh, this is a good point. Sure.
Right? And all of a sudden, or let's say you decide to build them.
Meaning, let's say the first weed shop you designed as an architect, that's how you met this GC.
Yep.
But now you've been doing it for 5 years with them.
Yep.
And they got real comfortable with you.
Yep.
Personally and professionally.
Exactly. The first year, they just want to build it. They want to be like,
Everybody's
the best.
hungry. Yep.
You're the best architect. The best architect in the world. Right? They're not going to say that, hey, you didn't figure out the HVAC. You didn't figure out how the stairs land, stuff like that.
They're not going to tell you things. They're not going to give you as harsh a criticism as Al is comfortable giving me, on a daily basis because we've been hanging out for so long, right?
You make it like I berate you every day.
It's just, but I got the, it's like Lance Thick-Skin Cayko. That's his name.
If I berated him every day, I wouldn't need to berate him every day.
But yeah, so they get that comfortable with you, and then what happens?
Then all of a sudden, you now know that you know less because all of a sudden, let's say you're going to the job site more. All of a sudden, you're getting more feedback. All of a sudden, you're getting more responsibility, which is more reward, but more responsibility comes with more headaches, right? All of a sudden, you're hearing from your network different things. So like you're getting deeper. So you're getting deeper into the problem set. So it's actually a good thing. It's actually a good thing that like these issues are coming up because in the beginning, you might not have heard about them. So for example, we went after a project in Denver. We didn't get it because the building official said we couldn't do that type. Our research said we couldn't do that type. We heard through one of our great MEP guys that another firm got it and could do exactly what the client wanted. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had that relationship where that business owner could tell us this. He just wouldn't have known that he was buddies with us and that we went after
and
it.
whether or not it's actually like this is our theory. We're theorizing a bit here, and it's probably it's got to be true on some level. But like let's say it's not about them being comfortable with it. Let's just say they literally just forgot to talk about that. Because honestly, like when you're a contractor and your subs get out there, on both ends of it here, it's like they're there to get it done. So they show up on site and they're there to just go from A to B as quickly as possible. And that's where sometimes things go a little bit awry with construction. But it could have just come up in like a different conversation, right? Like meaning that they go, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we didn't think it was worth bothering you to tell you that we had to put in this chase here, and then you go, no, you should bother me about that because I want that feedback loop.
Yep.
It could be that too. It doesn't matter. It's
Exactly.
happening. It's happening.
Yep. So, anyways, I thought that was a good kind of frame of reference to put in your head if that's happening to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you shouldn't like beat yourself up. And that you just need to understand like, oh, this is part of the process. The more advanced I get, the more advanced sort of feedback I'm going to get in my if you have a feedback loop, even if you're not builders like we do in addition to being architects, if you're just doing CA with some of these builders and they're finally getting to the point where they're giving you really good feedback in that kind of way. It is what it is, and that's why it's architectural practice.
The more, dude, this works on a fractal pattern too, meaning the more advanced you get in your profession, the more your job becomes solving problems. Do you think leadership? Do you think the majority of their time
Really advanced problems with humans involved, like I mean emotional.
Yeah. So when you're climbing the corporate ladder, do you think the guys at the top are doing the easy, brainless, mindless work? Or do you think they're dealing with the issues?
my first ex-wife's sister-in-law? It drove me nuts that she actually thought that that's how it works. She's like, "What do you?" I will never forget it. I detest this woman. She goes, I was like fourth or fifth year in college, and I come back and we're there for like a Christmas or something, and she goes, "Well, what do you want to be when you get big, Lance?" And I go, "I'm going to school to be an architect." And she goes, and I go, "Eventually, I want to own my own firm." And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's what I want to do too. I can't wait to be a CEO and just kick back."
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite, you dumb.
It's the opposite. That's where all the hard problems
she's
go
just,
to.
She's just basically a crackhead now. It's just like on the streets. Anyway.
Is it who I'm thinking of?
I don't think you've ever met this woman.
Okay, good.
Oh, no, it's not that.
Yep.
Yeah, I know you're thinking. Yep. You've never met this woman.
Because the way your system should be set up is that
It's the
only the hard problems get to you. All the easy problems should be dealt with management and lower staff.
You are at the highest if you're a good CEO, this is what I've been saying, is you really where you want to be energy wise is to get a little woo woo is like you're trying to be at the highest frequency possible.
Yep.
You're trying to do the highest frequency work. That's marketing. That's going out like at 10 a.m. here. I'm going to go meet with a new client. High energy, high frequency. That's where you're at. You're not doing the low frequency stuff. So like as you are doing the higher frequency stuff, then the problems are going to become higher frequency because they're going to become more complicated. Just imagine like we're looking at a sine wave.
Yep.
That maybe like if you're entry level, it's nice and long and loop and slow. It's easy to understand. You think it's complicated, but you're also at that frequency. Then all of a sudden your frequency increases as a sine wave increases. And like that's your life. That's why my life is down to the minute these days. Teaching at 2 universities, co-running the 2 firms with you, doing this podcast, doing the fishing show, all the other stuff. Like that's where it's at. That's where Al, same thing. Al, school board, Gore,
School board, school, on school, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Cub Scouts,
yeah, all the stuff,
all the
bro.
stuff.
Oh, he's got this automatic. He's so high frequency. He's got an automatic. He's got a portable shake. This is phenomenal. It's gonna blew my mind yesterday.
Did you see the video I sent you?
Absolutely, I love reacting.
Do you like the little handle that I have?
He's
on
crushing it.
Yeah, it's a little blender, portable blender thing, all in one. So think about this too. Let's say you aren't at the leadership of your firm, and you're bringing up issues, right? Know that obviously don't bring up a stupid, small, dumb issue. Like that would make no sense. But when you want to bring up issues, it's almost like you want to bring up, I researched it, I think this or this, and know that it's either going to be one of those two, or because you're bringing it up to leadership, they might be like, oh no, this is the wrong direction. You need to go look in this third secret area or go talk to this person. Anyways, I don't think that concept gets kind of understood enough.
Yeah. It's an advanced concept, and I hope this is resonating. We're trying our best to make it resonate. But we'll see. Okay. What do we got next, Al?
I want to clarify, Lance, my conspiracy theory.
Oh.
So do you remember my conspiracy theory about the Fed is holding rates longer for higher to curb the government because the government just spends money on stupid pork barrel stuff and it doesn't?
I don't remember this,
wasteful.
but wow, that is like, hey, the high frequency and energy of this guy is like, if you could be inside his tinfoil hat, amazing. You couldn't wear this man's tinfoil hat.
You'd get electrocuted.
Yeah. You can't handle it.
So basically, I was equating that they were holding the rates higher for longer so that the government would get the message like, hey, we can't spend everyone's money and then spend a third on debt servicing, right?
Yep.
But how it actually works is everyone thinks that the government can just print money. And they kind of can, but it doesn't work exactly like that.
Sure.
So the government issues treasuries. People or corporations have to buy that. There's only a couple things. Obviously, you could go buy that, but not a lot of people do unless you have high income. So corporations and other countries buy it, and also the Fed buys it. Mm-hmm. So when you hear about the Fed, Fed balance sheet being reduced, right? What does that mean? So when the government printed their treasuries for COVID, there wasn't enough money in the world to buy it.
Sure.
So the Fed then printed money, literally made up money, quantitative easing, to then buy those government treasuries. So when they are reducing their balance sheet, what they are saying right now, if my computer would actually work.
Hey, your working computer.
And I'm going to zoom in, right? This is all the government printed money.
Yep.
Is that they are no longer buying the treasuries from the government. They're no longer purchasing it. So now what the government has to do, since the Fed isn't buying it, because how the Fed works, it's independent, but the leaders are appointed by the government.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tricky there.
Yeah.
Now the treasury interest rate is being risen so that Japan, Germany, big corporations buy it because the Fed's not buying it. So this is what's putting a squeeze on the government, is the Fed saying, I'm not going to print money just to hand over to you so that you can just do whatever you want. So the interest rates are kind of separate than this. Now, what I hope for my dear life is Powell continues this trend, because if they want to keep making up bills and just the government printing money, they have to keep raising the interest rate that they're paying to Japan, to Germany, to other corporations, which is then directly coming out of your pocket now in the future. And imagine this. Know who has a lot of these? Retirement funds.
Yeah.
Vanguard, all that.
A lot of the bonds, yeah.
This is when the rubber is going to hit the road. If the Fed stops buying, the government's going to have to realize, like, oh, we literally cannot pay these back, right? Because we don't
let's let the pensions fail, and then, hey, boomers, back to work. Back to work.
Imagine the fire when they say, hey, you know your Vanguard
We're
portfolio
short of plumbers.
that transitioned from volatile to secure and now is 50% treasuries, and the government can't pay it back. Can you imagine?
Well, this is what Robert Kiyosaki has been saying for a long time, is that the bubble is really in the pensions.
Yep. But all they're going to do, whoever the president is, if it's Biden, if it's Trump, if it's whatever, well, actually just those two, they're going to blame the Fed and put pressure on the Fed.
Yeah.
Yep. And they can do it a couple different ways. They can choose to fire that person and hire a patsies. They can know that the Fed is a patsy for the big banks, and they can say we're going to threaten regulations on the big banks. Mm-hmm. And they're going to do this so that, again, until literally like it all collapses, to literally print more money. Now, if Powell and whoever the successor is says, no, this is obviously like the most inefficient way to run a government. The most inefficient way to run a government is to let government control the majority of spending in that country. Like, that should be so blatantly obvious that I should hardly have to back it up, because it's centralized planning. It's not nimble. It's bureaucratic. That's the rationale there. Is the government, they're smart enough to know that, but like the way that the whole system works, they just don't operate that way.
Right.
So in the next couple years, if the rubber hits the road, it's because the Fed is not buying treasuries. And that is what the firestorm will be about, because the government wants to keep easy street printing so that they can print money to give to the corporations that then pay them, because that's literally how it works. And there's no one with enough guts to just stand up and say, hey, I'm not going to do any of that, and thus I'm going to get punished, and nothing is going to come to my state because they're going to punish me that way. Also, they're going to smear attack me and just make up lies about me. Guaranteed that happens.
Yeah.
And do you remember with Mitt Romney? I'm not even a big Mitt Romney fan. When he ran for president, they're like, in 1987,
the dog.
He had his dog on a leash.
The dog stuff was crazy.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they don't just do this.
He's not running for Senate again, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's how little of a fan I am of Mitt Romney. Rhino. Anyways,
okay. That was kind of my clarification on.
You know what? This next article that you got up, let me lead it in, because
Please
actually
do.
somebody sent me this article too on the Facebook. Just a friend who sees me complain about stuff a lot. Oh no, I have to sign in. I don't want to sign in. I think there's another article where I can find it. Here's what it is. You can barely probably see it on my screen. Jury finds realtors conspired to keep commissions high. Let's see if there's a different article that I can. Here we go. Perfect. I'm going to pull up the CBS News article because maybe they won't have a paywall. Wall Street Journal. Realtors must pay home sellers $1.8 billion for inflating commissions, jury finds. Oh, this was also in the Entre Architect group this week.
Yeah.
So this article came out 2 days ago on November 1st. Beyond the Realtors Association, defendants in the case include Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway's Home Service of America, and two of its subsidiaries. The verdict, which came in after a 2-week trial in federal court in Kansas City, is a potential game changer for how Americans buy homes. It also comes at a time when the U.S. real estate market is stalled, with mortgage rates nearing 8% and existing home sales down double digits from a year ago, which is 100% true. The case centers on the commissions home sellers to make to a buyer's realtor, those payments are partially governed by NAR rules. I don't know what that is. National Association of Realtors. Okay.
Yep.
Which mandate that sellers include a fee offered to the buyer's agent in listing property. The offer is known by real estate agents representing prospective buyers, but the latter are usually in the dark on those amounts. That can lead agents to steer buyers into deals to maximize their own commissions. Plaintiffs claimed the association and other defendants colluded to drive up the commission that sellers pay to brokers representing home buyers. Class members include the sellers of hundreds of thousands of homes in Missouri and parts of Illinois and Kansas between 2015 and 2022. Michael Ketchmark, I see you wanting to talk, Al. The lead attorney for the plaintiffs told CBS Money Watch he expects a jury award to be tripled under U.S. antitrust law to more than $5 billion. Oh my God. I really got to finish this. Today was a day of accountability. For the longest time, the NAR has used its market power to get a stranglehold grip on home ownership. Wouldn't it be funny if they found backdoor money with BlackRock? It costs 2 to 3 times. That was not in the article. It costs 2 to 3 times as much to sell a house in the United States as it does. Oh my God! As it does in industrialized countries, said the attorney, citing the practices outlined during the trial compels the seller to pay brokerage commissions up to 6%. Yep, totally normal. Here, 2 other brokerages, Remax and Anywhere Real Estate, settled with the plaintiffs earlier this year, paying a combined $138 million and agreeing to no longer require that agents belong to the NAR. Interesting. Let's see here. Last thing I'll read the quote about. Quote, today's decision means that buyers will face even more obstacles in an already challenging real estate market, and sellers will have a harder time realizing the value of their homes. Home services expressed disappointment with the ruling and vowed to appeal. So this is the reaction from the realtors. This is perfect. This is a perfect way to end this little part. Today's quote, this is literally what the realtors said. This is how they're whining. Today's decision means that buyers will face even more obstacles in an already challenging real estate market, and sellers will have a harder time Get out of here, pop-up. Will have a harder time realizing the value of their homes. It could also force home buyers to forego professional help during what is likely the most complex and consequential financial this transaction. Oh, so they were looking out for you. Now I'll go into that argument. Financial transaction they'll make in their lifetime, which is true. A spokesperson stated in an email to CBS Money Watch, quote, cooperative compensation helps ensure millions of people realize the American dream of homeownership.
Cooperative
with the help of real estate professionals. Wow. What do you think about that last part?
No,
unpack it, Al.
The reason why the architecture industry is blowing up on this is because whenever that ruling against the AIA, because the AIA used to share just like salaries.
Yep. Commission.
It's funny that they can share average salaries, which I feel is very, very helpful. But they can't share commissions of billing because that is collaboration and collusion, which is nonsense. Because what architects have always said is like, okay, even if the AIA shared that data, the real estate people are baking it into their contracts, they're baking it into their training, they're, it's crazy how the architects got in trouble for this, but not real estate. The second major point of why this is such a thorn too is I realize that selling some houses is actually a lot of work. You have to meet on the weekends, you have to meet afterwards. For a real estate agent, you have to put out flyers. There's legal issues that they have to disclose. I understand that. But what happens in most of society is, and then they justify their fee that way, is people don't have perspective. They do not have perspective. Meaning, if you knew how hard some other things were, you would realize that you're being overpaid.
Yeah.
So if you get a combined total of 5% on selling a home, and you're like, yeah, I had to work a weekend, I had to meet with the clients 3 times, and then I had to do 4 showings. Like, okay, 2 of you people got 5% of that. To make that home, an owner and a drafter, if it's a high-end home, had to draft it over 6 months, had to go through the building department, takes responsibility for insurance and all that stuff.
They can get sued for 7 years. Don't forget about the suing for 7 years nonsense.
And you can't explain, you have no idea how much more work, how much more work and liability we put in it than you.
The liability part is, I think, overshadows everything. Like I could argue with that. I'm not going to, but I could argue with Al as a guy who was formerly married to a realtor. Like, there's a big argument. I've seen the amount of work she's had to do. There's a counter argument there, right? But it's really about the risk to me.
Yep. But like I am
risk
acknowledging
versus reward is out of balance.
Yep. I am acknowledging that's a lot of work, but like you can't explain the other amount of work unless they literally went through your shoes.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then it's crazy too, because in some instances, like you know me, so you'll know this is true. When I go to buy a house and then sell my house, not for the selling, but the buying, like I already know what I'm going to buy. I already know how much it is. I already talked to like here, I am buying that house. Put it off. Like you do literally no work
Remind
whatsoever.
me to talk to you about land when we're off air, by the way. I got
Yep.
a question for you.
And then it's like we're locked into these commission rates. So like regardless of because other people, I totally understand that. Hey agent, what land is out there? Give me a list. Oh, can you set up meetings? Let's go look at it. You know, like I understand that that's actually a lot of work. But for me, it's like, agent, you will do zero work whatsoever. I actually also offer 10 grand over. So I make sure that we aren't doing multiple offers on multiple different lands, right? But then it's baked in like, oh, here's your fees no matter what. It's like that's what rubs like it's collusion, like it's collusion because I can't go to someone else because they're just baked in the same way too.
Yeah, and there's actually two rulings against the AIA. One was in 1998, and the first one was in 1972. Same sort of thing. There's collusion to fix pricing. So, yeah. All right. What do we got last, Al?
The only thing that we have last is it's a two-parter.
Yeah.
It's a twofer. The Feds held their interest rates, so we're in the 5.25 to 5.5 rate, right?
And then they're not meeting. Are they meeting in November? They usually don't meet in December.
Yeah, I think they combine it into one meeting.
Okay.
November and December is one meeting, and it's at the end of November, and then they meet back in January or February, which then leads to brace for 8% mortgage rates to drag the housing economy into a 1980s-style recession, Wells Fargo warns. What's crazy is this holding rates, the stock market, and Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin to the moon, everyone knows that.
What is it doing? Keep going.
It's 34. It's 34K.
Okay.
Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
Housing market looks like it's headed into a recession. Here's what's weird too is like it's already there because the housing prices isn't dropping. It's just the amount of transactions we've went over this before is like off a cliff. Just totally off a cliff. So they say,
oh my God, it's up 18% in the last 3 months. Sorry, I'm looking at Bitcoin. It's up 71% in the last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Buy that strength, everyone.
Yeah.
I think BlackRock, which we criticize because they are terrible, but I think their ETF is
Crushing?
No, I think it's about to actually go live. So that means all these pension funds and wealth funds and like, we have one that has 3% into Bitcoin, 2% into Bitcoin, 1% into Bitcoin, just so you know.
So what are they saying? Like, okay, in the 1980s, the Fed's aggressive war on inflation drove 30-year mortgage rates as high as 19%. Oh my God. Yeah. MS builders, blah 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 blah. Help. Nobody's gonna be able to. Some people can afford it. Oh, like Wells Fargo economists compared that desperate plea to a letter. ... So what? It just means that like what even is it in a 1980s style recession? I've been wanting to go back. Me and Tucker Carlson, we want to go back to the 1980s. We're cool with that.
Why not the 90s? Is it?
Then smoking became taboo. I need smoking to become not taboo.
Okay.
I absolutely stand by this. You look at what happened when we started
cigarette a day keeps the doctor away.
A cigarette away keeps the obesity away.
That's also probably statistically true.
It's based. So here's what I want to do. Here's my question now. It's like, well, yeah. So let's say we're headed there, which all signs are pointing to this very high interest rate for that in that kind of way, right? What's the pivot? Like, what do you do business wise? We talk a lot about the fundamentals of paying down your debt, being cash flow positive, where you're not taking on the debt, which is, should you, one of your points that we keep pushing off is, should you rely on loans to smooth out your cash flow? No, don't do that. We'll talk about that in a different episode, but diversifying in a good way, meaning not superseding meritocracy for the sake of diversity, but actually being diverse so that you have multiple stools to stand on. It seems like, I think, however you need to set yourself up, it's got me thinking about marketing, how do you attract the kind of people that have cash? It seems like cash is really going to be the king here. And I can tell you, for the people we're building for, it's cash. There's no bank loans here for this. It's too hard to get the money now. It's just too expensive to get the money. Yep. So it seems like you need to align yourselves with people who are doing business that way.
So my thought, and it's not fully formed yet though, is the money is still out there, a bunch of the money, because the Fed can only destroy basically what is basically due from the government.
Yes.
And then quantitative tightening is, instead of them rebuying from the government, is that they literally just hit the delete button. The money came back. Then they hit delete. That's literally what they do. There's probably a delete. It'd be awesome if it was a red button. Yeah. Hey, we got the government paid us back $8 billion today. Okay, delete. Isn't that funny? Mm-hmm. But most of the money, if you looked at that graph, is still out there. So what I feel like is it's going to be a little bit similar, but a little bit worse to what it is now. Is there's all this money, but yet everything, inflation, just costs more. So everyone is just getting less and slower. So instead of people buying a new car every, let's just say 5 to 6 years, it's going to be 9 to 10 years. Instead of buying a new home, you're just going to stick with your home because your money's going to food and other things like that. So it's just going to be a general slowdown, but all the numbers are still going to look relatively well because there's just a flood of cash.
And you know what? Here's the silver lining of the whole thing. Boomers, we want your pensions to stay strong, because now I don't want you back in the labor force. Ugh. It's time for me and Al and our generation to be in charge and start crushing business-wise. So that's probably the silver lining of the whole thing is but we're still going to have a huge labor shortage, even in the white collar. That's right. You know what I mean?
That's correct. So
the work, the opening, even though it'll be slower, the theory should be the holistic view is that's why you got to go to RevitRocketship.com. You got to level up. You got to do more with less.
Yep. You
got to look into Paul Akers' book, 2-second lean. You got to start doing 2-second leans.
Yep.
You got to start diversifying. You got to crush it.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I think that's good for now, but let's bring down the crew for A.R.E. Jeopardy.
Let's do it.
Question number 1. What are the common widths for industrial scale concrete tilt-up panels? What are the common width? Yep. Is it A, 8 to 12 feet, B, 16 to 20 feet, C, 4 to 6 feet, D, 10 to 12 feet? A, C, B, 16 to 20 feet. Wow. Yeah. But no, you're not transporting. Tilt up is on site. Yeah. Question number 2. Damp proofing members should extend how many inches above grade? Damp proofing membrane should extend how many inches above grade? A, 4 inches, B, 6 inches, C, 8 inches, D, 2 inches. B. 6 inches. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And we do. We have been actually all the way to the top. It is what it is. It's just did it here, doing it in a lucky lane. Okay, number 3. According to the International Fire Code, what is the minimum required separation distance between a propane storage tank and an exterior wall of a building in a commercial occupancy? Is it A, 5 feet, B, 10 feet, C, 15 feet. D, 20 feet. What do we got? The correct answer is B, 10 feet. And 25 foot. I was going to read this to you. Rule. Propane. There's a 10 and 25 foot rule. That's what I learned today. Yeah. So basically, the 10-foot spacing of one container with 1,200 gallons or less water is allowed, and there are no other LP containers of more than 125 foot. If there's a 125 foot gallon, if there's a then you move to Basically, it's that at the minimum you're at 10 feet. It can go to 25 feet, depending on the tank size. Yeah. Oh, it took me a while to find that one. Number 4, for climate zones 3 through 8, what is the maximum allowable air leakage rate for a residential building in air exchanges per hour at 50 pascals, ACH 50? Is it A, 2 ACH 50, B, 3 ACH 50, C, 4 ACH 50, or D, 5 ACH 50?
If you don't get this right,
You're
turn in your stamps
turn 'em
to our
in.
desk after this.
Yep, correct answer is B, 3 ACH 50. Jason, did you crush? Did you win?
I got 3. I got 2.
Jason's the winner.
Where are we going to eat?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Let's do urban.
Urban Pizza?
I'm
Urban-
down. I'm down.
I am so down.
Yeah, and I will take the leftovers because I don't want to cook tonight.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're ordering them so much that I'm having leftovers, just so you guys know. That's happening.
What? Yeah.
All right, Gresh.
That's it. Take us out. Great
All right,
show.
it's been a while. If you like this episode, leave us a 5-star review, positive comment on YouTube. We'll see you next week.